There are two main ways, even though everybody's case is different. But the two main ways of showing source of funds is either by savings from earnings. In other words, let's say that over a 5-year period, you've, as an investor, have saved $500,000. So what we have to do is show the tax returns that you have for the last 5 years. That is required under the EB-5 law. So the tax returns would have to show that you had enough earnings to cover not only your personal expenses, but to save $500,000. So then we have to show that that extra amount each year was transferred to a savings account or to a stock account, whatever it is for you, but we're talking about now a typical case, and the money would go to a savings account. We'd have confirmation from your savings account over a 5-year period. You don't have to have every statement for every month for 5 years. We would get 2 statements a year. Let's say January and July of each year to show how it grew, how the savings grew over the 5-year period. If it took more than 5 years to save $500,000, then we'd show it over a longer period of time, tax returns and savings account. So that's one typical way. Another even more typical way is if somebody has a piece of property that they bought many years ago that increased in value. That is the most typical way. So let's say you bought the property 10 years ago, and you bought it for $100,000. So then you have to show where you got the money to buy the property 10 years ago. If that money came from savings, then you have to show that you had the earnings 10 years ago to buy the property. If property is 15 or 20 years old that you bought or that was gifted to you or you got it from a parent, if it's property you've owned for a long time, then immigration generally doesn't expect that you'd have the documents from 15 or 20 years ago. The whole story has to make sense. So you bought the property, let's say 10 years ago for $100,000, and now it's worth $1 million. So you sell the property, you use $500 and $500 or $550,000 of that. So you have to show the sale and document that you were paid, and that the money then was transferred to the regional center project that you have chosen to make your investment. So those are 2 typical ways, and again, there could be many variations of that. One other, just to complete the thought, is that a lot of times parents gift children and even adult children who are married and have families. So parents gift children the money to make the investment. Assuming that happens, then the parents have to show source of funds. In other words, if they're gifting you $550,000 and it's from sale of their property, then they have to show their tax returns for the last 5 years and where they got the money 5 years, 10 years ago, whenever they bought the property. So the same rule would apply to anyone who gifted you the money as well as yourself.